When people talk about ancient history or biblical kings, they usually picture dry genealogies or dusty maps. But the story we are looking at today, it feels more like a season finale of a high-stakes political thriller.
That is honestly the best way to describe it. We are covering 2nd Chronicles, chapters 19 through 23. And you're right, the tonal whiplash here is intense. We go from one of the most spiritually profound military victories in history to a grandmother murdering her own grandchildren to seize the throne.
Yeah, let's not bury the lead there. We will get to the killer grandma later. But let's start with the high point. We open with King Jehoshaphat. He seems like a rare bright spot in this era.
He really is. Jehoshaphat returns to Jerusalem and he's shaken. He's just been rebuked by a seer for allying with wicked people. And he takes it to heart. He decides to clean house. But what's interesting is how he does it. He doesn't just build walls or stockpile weapons. He rebuilds the judicial system.
Right? He sets up judges in the fortified cities. But I noticed his instructions to them were heavy.
Extremely heavy. He tells them, "You don't judge for man, but for the Lord." He effectively tells them that corruption, bribery, or favoritism isn't just a crime against the state. It's a direct offense against God. He demands they operate in the fear of the Lord. It was a radical attempt to align the nation's moral compass, not just its borders.
And that moral compass gets tested almost immediately. Chapter 20 introduces a massive coalition. Moab, Ammon, the inhabitants of Mount Seir, all coming to wipe Judah off the map.
This is the defining moment for Jehoshaphat. A massive army is at the door. Logically, you mobilize the cavalry, you sharpen the spears. But Jehoshaphat calls a fast. He gathers everyone, men, wives, children, and he just stands before the temple and admits, "We have no power against this great multitude, and we don't know what to do."
But our eyes are on you. That's the line, right?
Exactly. It's total vulnerability. And the response they get is fascinating. A Levite named Jehaziel prophesies that they won't even need to fight. The battle belongs to God.
Okay, but believing that is one thing, acting on it is another. Because the next morning, Jehoshaphat's military strategy is unconventional to say the least.
Unconventional is putting it mildly. He puts the choir in the front.
The choir?
The singers, in holy array. They march out before the army, singing, "Give thanks to the Lord, for his loving kindness endures forever." Imagine the scene. You are walking toward a slaughter, and your weapon is a song. But as soon as they start singing, the text says the Lord set ambushes. The enemy armies turned on each other. By the time Judah got to the watchtower, there was no army left, just dead bodies.
They didn't lift a finger. They just spent 3 days collecting the spoils.
It's known as the Valley of Barakah, or the Valley of Blessing. It's the peak of Jehoshaphat's reign. The fear of God fell on all the surrounding kingdoms because they realized, okay, God fights for these people.
So you'd think happily ever after. Judah is safe, the king is good. But then we hit chapter 21 and the story falls off a cliff.
It really does. Jehoshaphat dies, and his son Jehoram takes over. And here we see the long-term cost of a bad alliance. Remember how Jehoshaphat had been friendly with the northern kingdom of Israel? Well, his son Jehoram married the daughter of Ahab.
Ahab being the notorious wicked king of the north?
Right. And that marriage brought the toxicity of Ahab's house right into the heart of Judah. Jehoram's first act as king? He secures his position by massacring all his brothers.
The text lists them by name, too. Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah. It's brutal. He kills them all to eliminate rivals.
It's pure power politics, devoid of any fear of God. And the consequences are immediate. Edom revolts. Libnah revolts. But the personal consequences are even worse. He gets a letter from the prophet Elijah.
Which is a surprise cameo.
It is. Elijah tells him essentially, because you walked in the way of Ahab and murdered your own family, you're going to be struck down. And it's gruesome. The text describes an incurable disease of the bowels. He suffers for 2 years until his bowels actually fall out.
That is a horrific way to go.
It is. But the saddest line in that chapter isn't about his physical pain. It's the epitaph. It says, "He departed with no one's regret."
That gave me chills. To be a king, to have all that power, and when you die, the national reaction is just relief.
They didn't even bury him in the tombs of the kings. He was a disaster. But his son, Ahaziah, isn't any better. He only rules for 1 year because he also takes advice from his mother, Athaliah. That's Ahab's daughter. He gets caught up in a northern coup and is executed by Jehu.
And this brings us to the crisis point. Ahaziah is dead. The king is gone, and his mother, Athaliah, sees an opening.
This is the Game of Thrones moment. Athaliah doesn't mourn her son. She decides to destroy the entire royal seat of the House of Judah. She wants to be the sole ruler, so she starts killing her own grandchildren.
It's almost unthinkable she is trying to wipe out the line of David. If she succeeds, the promise of the Messiah, the future hope of Israel, is effectively cut off.
Exactly. The stakes couldn't be higher. But there is one loose thread she misses. Jehoshaphat, the daughter of the king, manages to steal away a baby named Joash. She hides him and his nurse in a bedroom.
While the massacre is happening?
While it's happening, she smuggles him into the temple of God. Her husband is Jehoiada the priest. So for 6 years, while Athaliah is reigning over the land, probably imposing all sorts of idol worship, this little boy is growing up in secret, right inside the temple.
6 years of hiding. That tension must have been unbearable. But then comes chapter 23, the 7th year.
Jehoiada decides it's time. He can't wait any longer. He gathers the captains, the Levites, and the heads of households. He brings them into the temple and shows them the boy. He makes a covenant with them. Behold, the king's son must reign.
The planning here is incredibly detailed. He organizes the gatekeepers. He arms the men with King David's old spears and shields that were stored in the temple. It's a full-on counter coup.
It is. He surrounds the boy with armed guards. They bring Joash out, put the crown on him, give him the testimony, and shout, "Long live the king!"
And Athaliah hears the noise.
She does. She hears the trumpets and the cheering. She runs into the temple, which, ironically, she probably hadn't visited much, and sees this child standing by the pillar, crowned. And she screams, "Treason! Treason!"
Which is rich, coming from her.
The ultimate projection. She's the usurper calling the rightful heir a traitor. But Jehoiada doesn't hesitate. He orders the captains to take her out. He says, "Don't kill her in the Lord's house." They drag her to the horse gate, and her reign of terror ends right there.
And the aftermath is immediate restoration. They tear down the house of Baal. They smash the altars. It feels like the city can finally breathe again.
The text says, "The city was quiet." It's that silence of relief after a storm. But look at the arc we just covered. We started with Jehoshaphat, a man who sought God and brought peace. We went through 2 generations of absolute chaos caused by compromising with evil, and we ended with a priest and a baby restoring the promise.
It really highlights how fragile a legacy is. Jehoshaphat was a good man, but his alliance with Ahab almost destroyed everything he built.
That's the critical lesson. You can have personal piety, like Jehoshaphat, but if you compromise on who you align yourself with, the consequences can ripple down for generations. It took a brave aunt and a courageous priest to pull the kingdom back from the brink of extinction.
It's a reminder that history often hangs by a thread, or in this case, a hidden baby.
Absolutely. The lamp of David flickered, but it didn't go out.
A powerful place to stop. It makes you wonder what hidden things are being preserved right now in the midst of chaos. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
Always a pleasure. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.